Greetings, fellow humans that like to smoke weed.
Hey. You. Hi there. It's 4:19. Do you have a minute? Good. Then let's pack a bowl. 'Cause it's time for Cannabis Talk, a special 420 themed segment of the almost daily ZenCast. Hosted by spiritual cannabis mystic, the incorrigible Mr. Zappa. Let's get lit, folks!
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Howdy ho there, friends. You know that's a recording, right? Okay, good. Also, I do sometimes cough when I smoke. It happens. You gotta try to be nice to your lungs and not fuck yourself up. Welcome to another episode of Cannabis Talk. I very magically, curiously, almost without trying, lined that up so that it was literally almost 4:19 p.m. here Pacific time, when in my pre-recorded intro I say, it's 4:19, you got a minute? So that was cool, and here we are, friends. Huzzah for cannabis, because cannabis heals and brings people together and inspires and activates and energizes individuals, as much as it may, on occasion, chill them the fuck out so hard it almost looks like they need a nap, or they literally do need a nap. It does all those things, and the range of experience that you may or may not have with cannabis has something to do, if not a lot to do, with your conscious intent. What's our conscious intent today, friends? Well, anybody listening along live, which I don't think there are, but if there were, you'd all be like, well, we were just talking about tarot. What do you want to talk about now? Because I did just do a whole long-ass segment on tarot stuff. But I'm also fiending an evening of playing my one and only video game distractionary video game, which is, as you may or may not know, depending on how many episodes of this podcast, series of interrelated series you've been listening to. It's all just one big rambling podcast with different names for some reason. But it works out in my head. So if you've been listening along, you know that I kind of sheepishly, with a bit of guilt vibe, like to play Eve online, which is a space melodrama odyssey of like, the drama comes from what people choose to do to other people in the confines of the game, not what the game presents to you. Although sometimes what the game does, what they do as a company to the game, sometimes pisses people off. But that's a whole other thing. Chircolavian invasion, anybody? But we're not playing that. This isn't Flights of Fancy, the Eve MMO fan fiction podcast about the fan fiction literary world I want to build in and around that platform. I'm just like, I haven't played it in a while because I've been so busy. I know what I wanted to do. Ha! Zah! I haven't talked to you guys, dear listeners, one-on-one on what's actually been going on in my life very, like, personally yet. And that's not something I try to avoid really hard, but it's also not the first thing on the docket, right? Like, politics and my spiritual take on politics, is first. And then here I was mostly talking about weed, but I think I've said everything I've got to say about weed because it heals. You can use it as a crutch if you insist. You can also use it to meditate and to heal yourself and to help others heal if you so choose. And I don't know what else to say about it besides moderation, responsible choices, and learning from your mistakes and experiences, and you'll be okay. And don't start too soon, right? I've always been an advocate of that. No judgment on those who started crazy early and are now functioning adults and members of society. Hooray for you. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, all things taken into consideration, any kid under the age of 19, no offense, people under the age of 19, but to some of us after a certain age, you're all kids. You're all kids under 25. It's like you're all chirping little children that think you're adults now. But I digress. That's rude. That was really harsh. We were all noobs, We were all noobs. Which is a bit of insight and wisdom that I learned, not necessarily specifically in Eve, but in and out of the other various MMO games that I've played as a part-time enthusiast, because I'm not even like a crazy MMO enthusiast. If you're worried about addictive behavior and someone is like, I'm into this MMO game, you want to check it out? You should, stop. If you're worried about a real hardcore addictive behavior or problem for yourself, because they are massively addictive, as is a lot that we consume in our world today. But that's something I probably have already rambled about in some deep and buried segment of the Almost Daily ZenCast, which is, of course, the umbrella for the whole shenanigans. But cannabis, man, yeah, cannabis. Smoking weed. Magical things going on in my life. So if Tarot Journal, if the TJ, I like acronyms, right? So NBN, news breaking news. It's tight, it's simple, it makes sense once you know what the word is, and no one else is using it that I'm aware of, right? If someone is, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to infringe on your commercial imaginary rights. Like, there's rights and then there's rights. Am I right? But put a pin in that. That's a whole other episode of Good Morning Trumptopia. Or once we're out of Trump time and we're no longer coping with Trump country, I might have to flip it to a new name like Political Punditry Percival. I don't know. Something with a P. Anyways, there are rights that are like real rights. Like, I have the right to not be fucking harassed, abused, chained, enslaved, right? And for many, many, many centuries, people just ignored that right. In fact, we were trained to believe it wasn't a right. But now we've all agreed, whatever it means, whatever the sentences really mean, that freedom is a God-given right. Okay. I'm of many minds about this issue, or these issues, because we get to the nexus problem, the really big question no one knows how to really cope with. Where does freedom... Hold on a second. Pro-cannabis wisdomed learning tip. Although it may feel and seem cool to like take a hit and then instantly continue to talk because you're like such a badass you can talk through the process, it's actually horrible on your vocal cords in the long run. Don't do it, especially if you are an artist that aspires to use your voice in any way, shape, or form, because the more you talk through the heat of that experience, the more you do the kind of damage that, like, what's the word I'm looking for? That accrues. It piles on over time. And yes, you can come back from that if you treat yourself better. But I, once being, a borderline stereotype of a stoner, thought it was cool, man. Be like, so, like the thing is, I can keep talking while I'm blowing the smoke out, even though that kind of sucks and people say that hurts and you shouldn't do it. Because I'm cool like that. And I've been trying to break myself of the habit, which is why when I just now started to do it kind of unconsciously, I stopped myself and hypocritically talked a bit to stop myself and tell you that I'd be right back, and then explained all that. And that second was a reenactment. I didn't hit it again and then like talk through that to do that. I was pretending. And that felt way different than doing it when I actually, am current in the middle of smoking. So there you go, guys. Your pro tip of, cannabis wisdom. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, and that's what I need. I need a device that's recording the podcast. And then I need another device that's like got GarageBand open or something equivalent that I can be like, piano jam, and then a little guitar, but I'm not ready for that. Even if I had a complement of 5 iPads, so that I can have multiple instruments on, and it's not like I didn't record it, live, because you can't really do that. You can't have the drum kit and the zither and the classical piano. You can have those all up on multi-track, and you can then go in and like open that track and then go to the voice and program it, but you can't like have like push the buttons all at the same time. I'm crazy, right? So slowly but surely, that's why I've adopted over time, because of the philosophy of slowly but surely. Start with what you've got and where you're at, and build new schools. Always build new schools. Like, we should have more schools than children, because that would make money for someone. The builders. Build your skills towards new levels of mastery, and acquire new skills, and integrate that into your workflow. Right? That's advice given to artists in various forms, and in various segments, broken up usually by various minds, and then I'm trying to like integrate it into one big thing. So yeah, I've adopted this new format where I'm going to continue to do live shows where I don't try to do any sound effects, and I'm even debating like I'm just gonna not do music, right? Like I like these standard boilerplate intros, which, by the way, that music, little tiny asterisks, that music is not Gazuda music. It's from before I met that delightful band of merry musicians. It's a bunch of stuff I found on freemusicarchive.org. So if you like the stuff from like the standard, you think this has always been the theme song, because I used to have other theme songs, but that was from a long time ago, and I haven't remastered those episodes yet. So, from volume 1, I'm going to keep those probably most of the time. Probably specifically for when I do live episodes like I'm doing right now, right? especially if and or when, as I do live episodes more, an actual audience starts joining me more often. Will I be on a Thursday afternoon at 4:20 very often? Who knows? Maybe not, because during a show contract, that's a terrible time. I should already be on the road. Or if it's a weekend, I should already be in the theater building doing whatever theater show. So if I'm working those kinds of gigs, unlikely. On those and during those periods, though, Monday afternoons on a 4:20, I might do a free, a live show. They're all free, so it'll ebb and flow. But my point is, I'm gonna go back no matter what, whether I recorded it live on Sprecher and there's an audience. Too bad that the live audience can't giggle and laugh along and be the live response. If there was a way for both audio feeds, right, to be cross-modulated so that I don't have to put up with listening to it while I'm talking, because it'll just a little bit of it would help me know if I'm being funny and jump to new funny, because I'm great in front of an audience. I'm kind of rambly and sort of absent-minded professorly-ish sounding when I'm just rambling on tape. But put me in front of an audience with a couple of other people, and bam, I can make up shows out of thin air, as long as those people are into improv and stuff. Not that I'm a braggart. I love doing theater, man. What did I adopt? I adopted the practice. Of, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, Cannabis Talk is the segment where I let loose, and I let really, I don't care about the blunders, and I let myself get high right in front of you. For the purposes of showing, it's not worse than alcohol. It's not going to kill me. It doesn't cause me to become instantly retarded. I will giggle more, and I will maybe get tongue-tied and tongue twisters a little bit more often. But red leather, yellow leather, rubber ducky, I'm a theater professional. And I'm also a cannabis spiritualist. And there slowly is, I guess, a growing cannabis professional class of people who work in the industry. I just don't have a really cool, high-paying job in the cannabis industry yet. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Cannabis investors, if you want to, what's the next cool thing to invest in? Cannabis radio, podcast, talk show, influencers that make cannabis culture cooler than it already is. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, so, this podcast will be revised and remixed a little bit more vigorously. So whether I recorded it out in the field, I'm going to, in my car, at 1313B Art House Collective, on campus, on the way to a show. I realized that when I went to go see a play recently, I coulda, shoulda, woulda start doing a podcast. Anytime I do go see a play as an audience member, I should be in my car and talk about how I heard about the show and where it's playing and how to get here and how good the directions are from Google Maps and what other businesses are in the area, what cool places there are to eat in the area, because, you always want to know that shit, especially, of course, this is limited to my geography of Southern California. But as things synergize, I intend to start to going to a lot more theater next year. So if you're just joining us now, help us grow into a show that has to happen, right? Where the demand is there and I got to get paid to do it, so that we can do crazy things next year. This time next year, I want this show to be tenfold more professional on all the ways that word can be interpreted than it is now. So help me out. If you're hearing this, if you've been listening to the show, if you've been nodding along and kind of agreeing, if you've been disagreeing but you dig listening, talk about it on your social media. Point more people to it. Share my Instagram profile. Share my Facebook pages for it. And drive people to thesprecher.com/Mr. Zeppo. Oh, that won't work. Erase. Rewrite. Sprecher, that's German speaker, SPREAKER.com/user/Mr. Zeppo. I always forget the user, and people go like, I can't find it. It says there's no such thing, and are you fake? I'm like, well, you were listening to it. Anyways, I digress. So I'm going to go back and refurbish each episode. Started working on it already. Going to be layering in this music created by Gazuta, this music created by PPMO. PPMO, Purple Poop, and the political and the molitical Purple Push and the molitical outrage, to stick to actual Spoonerism rules. Because I just spoonerized the acronym. It's PMPO. PMPO. PIMPO. I kind of like it. Sidebar, bit of real life factual history about me, the incorrigible Mr. Zappo, formerly known as, and I hate this old clown name, Mr. Pants. It was given to me, not selected. I don't know why I just revealed that, but it's a stupid name. Just forget I said it. I might edit that out. But back in the day, I ran, before I became a semi-professional amateur clown that toured and traveled to places like Italy. I was just reminiscing a little bit about that in Tarot Journal, because I have a fetish for the Italian publisher, Louis Scooby-Doo, I can't. Scooby-Doo, Italian publisher. They're awesome. I love them. Their name is so hard for my tongues to say correctly. I don't know why. It's because I'm a Mexican, not Italian. Yeah, man. Italy, things, words spiraling out of control, and onset of actually getting stoned. I'm realizing I may be boring you to tears, so I'm going to stop myself right here. And did I remember to upload the other song? No, I've got a song I've already featured in an episode, but it was one of those weird ones where it was like live on tape. So I don't want to play that. I meant to load a different one. Can I load? What else do I have here? I've already played the Young. I'm using that as the new intro for ADZ, the almost daily ZenCast. I'm not going to play track 9. I've already played track 9. That needs to go. Can I get rid of this live? Yeah, I can. Live. Boom. Original ADZ intro, original GMT intro. Sorry. Oh, we were talking about acronyms. Got sidetracked and all kinds of things. So, news breaking news, NBN. Great acronym. The almost daily ZenCast, ADZ. Ads. Not great, but not terrible. It looks cool. It doesn't sound cool. Let's put it that way. What's the other one? Good Morning Trumptopia, GMT. I love it. It makes me think of DMT. Crossover there. Ooh, did I already do a DMT episode? Question mark. Don't remember. Don't have any of my virtual assistants or real life assistants to help me right now, but I may have. Someday it'll be staff and someone with a funny bit about like, yes, not only did you do it, but here's your favorite clip. Play. That's what the show should be in its fullest. And this idea of redraft or updrafting them, kind of remixing, remastering, what I want to do, and you'll be able to hear will hopefully be a halfway decent early example, like a beta test of this in an upcoming re-release of a volume 1 episode, because I'm going to work on that this evening and into tomorrow or the next day. Hopefully get it out before I've got to go into work at the day job. So yeah, but music. I guess I could play Pimpo's. I used to run this before I was a clown. To finish this sentence that got totally hung up in the middle of a spiral. Before I was a clown with Clownzilla, which shoulda, coulda, woulda become like as big as Blue Man Group or Cirque du Soleil, but we didn't quite get there. And I blame no one, but of course ourselves. But we coulda. There's no animosity there. It's just one of those like, oh, what a dream we had. I miss it. Before all that, my very first tour of duty at the university that I attended in California, in a town whose name is silly sounding until you realize it's someone's last name. I ran a every other week, which eventually became every week, so almost weekly, on and off. Some weeks we'd take off because we knew people were tired and there was, midterms or finals coming up, etc. But we ran the first of its kind in that generation, and we're talking 1994. Ooh, to some people listening, that sounds like ye olde ancient history time, you little kids. But okay boomer, right? But hashtag okay boomer, randomly inserted just because. Am I a boomer? I don't know. Maybe I am. Am I a Gen Xer? I don't care. Those are just labels. Labels lead to ideological identity crisis. And if they're not nefarious, they're just like benign roadblocks in the way to enlightenment. And if they are not benign, then they're being used to control you and manipulate you from the inside out. So take them or leave them. Grain of salt. Do what you will. What was I trying to say? The variety show was called In No Particular Order. Finally. Ding, 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 ding. That was like, oh God. That's the one thing about weed. It does trigger you to like run on sentence world where everything that's connected in your mind wants to be connected by the sentences instead of the one thing that you set out to say. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. You can also get to a very chill as fuck quiet place where even inside, where it usually rattles you, your rat on a gerbil hamster wheel of a little fucking gerbil talking monkey machine thing shuts the fuck up. Right? The ego personality construct, the sentence construction box in your head, which we all generally feel quite aggravated by, quite profoundly disturbed by at times, quite alienated from at times. It's like, that's not even me. Like, I'm over here unable to express myself, and this chatterbox that pretends to be me is saying the craziest shit. Well, that's trauma. That's the result. That's the evidence of. That's the expression, the acting out of traumatized aspects of our inner psyche. There's a whole landscape in there. So I digress. In no particular order, was a almost weekly variety improv workshop jam show, which will synergize. I wish I had audio recordings of all of it. It occurred to me, then I thought no one would listen. It sounds stupid. No one will care. But I realized that if I'd been working at it from a podcaster with this layering in of edits technique idea, because right now it's just me, one person, and there's a lot of ums and ahs I want to get rid of, and there's a lot of ideas that I remember after the fact that I like, oh man, I could have talked about this, and I wanted to just go back and be like, quick blurb about that, as if I don't go sidebar enough and like ramble for hours on end. But it's a thing that I want to do and layer it out and turn every episode into a multi-part episode, right? If I'd been doing that then, right now, we would have a 2 or 3, maybe 4-year-long archive, because I would have trained somebody who stayed on to do it, to keep doing it, of this phenomena and this show, which sparked several other groups in its wake, including a group that put on a show called Live Nudes. It took me a second to remember, but they called themselves Live Nudes because they said, you're always naked under your clothes on was a thing. It was a catchphrase already. But they were like a group that picked up that torch when the legacy that carried on with INPO, because it was my idea, and I then teamed up with some students, a mix of undergrads and a grad student that was willing to take, make the effort to collaborate, because he saw that I was like pretty gung-ho about doing something. And he used to do a thing in his school. So it was like we were just like carrying that torch and bringing it to the first of a kind. I said in our generation. I meant specifically at that school, not in the world, right? that school hadn't had anybody do that in the last 10, 20 years, period. And I don't even know how long that school had been around for. I doubt it had been around for more than 100 years, so it may never have happened on campus in a serious way. And it took off. Like, there were kids that were trekking across the length and breadth of campus to come see our little studio show in Studio 4 on the Arts and Performance campus. And, you know, biology, engineering, math. We had people from all over the place. And it's because word of mouth is the original social media, right? Telling your friends about what you did the other day and you went to go see this thing is the original word of mouth way of sharing our status updates. So, yeah. Anywho's, I was going to play you some music by In No Particular Order. I might change the name of my band to In No Particular Order, because that is a name I came up with. I also came up with Clownzilla, but I gave it to the professor who ran that group, and I'm not trying to pick a beef. I'm just not sure how you would feel, if you would get upset or offended if I started to use it in terms of future performance or stuff. But on the other side of this song, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what's actually been going on instead of rambling wildly out of control. But for now, dear friends and listeners, actually this song, do I have another song? No. I wish I had a different Gazuda song queued up, but this song will do for now, because I have a shout out to give at the other side of the song. This song would not exist. I created it, and it would not exist if it were not for Austin and Josh Gazuda from the Gazuda clan. From Clan Gazuda. They lit a fire under my ass. This song may not be your cup of tea, but I don't really mind what anybody else thinks, as long as what I make, when I listen to it later, makes me want to dance, then I'm down. Now, I don't dance any particular way. I just let my body move. So, this song works for me. It's very clowny and a kind of classical meets metal crossover in a way. Electronica. I don't know. But shout out to Josh and Austin from Clan Gazuda, from Gazuda Music. If you'd like to look them up, the official Instagram account is @Gazuda_music. Austin is sort of like a friend of, or I don't know, maybe he's an official member. I don't know the details. I don't know if they've even worked out like membership levels. But Gazuda Music is the account that represents sort of a group of collectives that I'm being pulled into. And that's what I want to talk about real quick in this episode. I've already rambled on way too long. I'm trying to keep all my episodes under the way too long rambly length they used to be. But, well, a few weeks ago, I got really serious about meditation and approaching it from a mental stance of magic is real It's just an organic system that we've been conditioned to ignore and neglect. And it may very well not be quite at all like the fanciful fictional depictions of magic that we're accustomed to. But something magical, something that we call magic, is real. And I decided not too long after someone quite whimsically, with all kinds of satirical irony, I mean, not in their part, but on the part of the universe, some poor schlep who's going through a drinking problem phase in their life was driving drunk and rear-ended my car and totally totaled it. So despite whatever aspiring plans I may have had to achieve a balance of solitude and meditation and maybe getting out into the world and seeing a little bit more art, my summer was spent almost exclusively confined to my home and the neighborhood around me I could afford to walk to. And it was so intense for a while because of shenanigans going on the what happened afterwards in terms of the details of the accident. And I'm not going to get into that. Just know that my car was destroyed, and for a time I chose just not to drive. I had planned to do very little driving anyways this past summer, because I wanted to spend long periods of time. One of the many aspiring initiatives inside of that collection of while I am cocooned, here are the plans that I am mastermindfully going to implement, is that I was going to teach myself a couple of things. I want to teach myself tarot. I want to teach myself at least entry-level skills into programming on the Mac, iOS, family of platforms, because they give you all the tools at a professional level that you need to do anything you could imagine that would be a high-quality Mac application for free. Whereas to do that on the Windows side, you not only have to take a lot of schooling, and there's a whole, many-tiered community of industries around getting into that kind of programming. And there's, of course, a body of people trying to make it easy and low cost and affordable and accessible. But Mac is on an initiative about teaching it to toddlers and making it that easy to teach yourself over time how to become a proficient programmer to create, design, implement, test, and deploy applications that would function on their desktop, on their pads, on their phones, and on their watches. And while that's a limited market, that's a market that's really enthusiastic about their little sphere, their world, and it's a market that theoretically has actually room to grow exponentially and take over the world. And also, my attitudes about it in terms of its market share are probably a little laggy, and I haven't really gone deep diving into business review reports into percentages of market share for Apple versus non-Apple products in the computing, personal devices, and telephone departments. But I digress. I was taking magic as an idea seriously, and magic and how I could use it to hopefully inspire inspiration, right? Because many of us sit around waiting to feel inspired to do something. Many people that I've spoken with, including one of the reasons I admire them and I look up to them is, in particularly Josh, organically had a conversation that led them to express their attitudes about inspiration, what it is, what it isn't, how it does, and how it does not work. And without me having to express any of my detailed thoughts on that, we came to an agreement, a place of concurrence, right? So we were clearly on a very close paragraph on the same page in the same book. And that's that intuition is readily available. Intuition and inspiration come from a mysterious place that is both elsewhere and also inherently, internally a part of you. So if you treat it as a god or a divine thing that's so removed from you that you're unworthy, then you're not exercising muscles, as it were, or the functions, the features, the systems in your body and spirit complex that utilize, activate, and attract intuitive inspiration. But like any athlete, if you realize it is something that you can work on, that you can't just turn it on and off like a switch, but that you can nurture your growth towards a deeper and deeper and deeper and stronger and stronger and stronger connection with your intuition, and therefore no longer feel unworthy and deprived of inspiration, but rather readily available to be in an intuitively sharp and clear and aware place, then you will invoke and welcome and attract more and more inspiration. And that inspiration will simultaneously seem foreign to you and wholly and completely familiar. Which is a weird paradox, but up and down coexist. Left and right are one and another. You can't separate them. You can't tear them apart. So it must work that way, I think. In nature, that many things are like that. It's funny that I'm speaking of the things. And I'm going to wrap this up by putting in a little like crossover teaser here in Cannabis Talk. I'm not going to do, I obviously reference all my shows in all my shows because they're all one big show. It's a show of shows. Like my books are books within books within books. And my plays, my stage plays are stage plays within, stage plays within stage plays, to be really redundant. I'm going to do a crossover moment. I'm going to welcome very quickly, because I feel very attuned and zoned in and like inspired. I'm going to welcome really quickly. And I do work with cannabis in a spiritual mode, as you may already know. I may have already said during this recording. And that applies to working with these decks. If you don't know what I'm talking about, flip the switch on my own profile page and go over to the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo's Tarot Journal and Cartomancy Radio Reading Hour. It's a separate show, but if you're on my main profile, if you're on the landing page for me, Mr. Zeppo, the most recent episode of that, if there is one, should be right there. If I'm referencing a different show, you should be able to scroll down and find the other shows that I'm talking about. And if you just hit play on that profile on the first episode, it should go ahead and autoplay if you're the kind that likes to binge a few things. If you got a few hours to share with me, come on in. If you're a tried and true and steady listener, namaste. Sending you so much love. Thank you for listening. And I don't want to be a nag, but it is the rule of marketing. You got to always be asking the ask, or else people forget and don't care. But if you can take a minute the next time it's convenient and safe if you listen to me directly on the Spreaker website, if you can take a minute the next time it's conveniently safe for you to subscribe, follow my show or follow my profile, and listen to those recently remixed and re-uploaded episodes again, so that their numbers tick up a little bit, but also so that you don't miss out on the cool new content, because there's actually some radically new shit going on with the show. I'm not just bragging here. I'm not just talking out of my ass. And it's going to get even more radical in the immediate future. Much appreciated. Much love to everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting it up. Thank you for putting up with my rank amateur passion and not always perfectly on target enunciation. But trust that it'll always be raw, real, honest, unscripted, even if sometimes occasionally mildly remixed and edited a bit. I'm not trying to bullshit anybody. I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to push the outro music. Here we go.
Well,
Oh yeah, I
folks,
totally forgot. I was gonna open a new deck.
the bowl is cashed and
I
dusted.
can do that while the outro music
Thank
plays.
you
Here we go,
for
friends.
joining me
This is
for yet
Little
another
Reminders,
most
The Law of
excellent
Attraction,
session
a 36-card
Candle
oracle
Talk.
deck to guide you
Stay
to wealth
lit,
and prosperity
forward,
by
and remember,
Amy Zerner
the world
and Monte
needs
Farber.
healing.
They are authors
Cannabis.
of Chakra Meditation Kit and The
Till next
Enchanted
time,
Spell
I have
board,
been
both of which
your
I've come across out
spiritual
in the
cannabis
bookstore.
mystic
So,
talk show host, the
It's cute,
incorrigible
it's interesting,
Mr.
it's
Zepp.
a lot fewer numbers of cards than I'm used to, but I like that, that they're authors of books, and I like the Law of Attraction, and I don't actually know as much of it as I should, other than your mindset impacts what you attract, and fundamental things like that, and I've seen the promo video for The Secret, although I've never joined enough to know whatever deeper secret they might reveal. So the Little White Book is an accordion fold-out in the same size and density of the cards, so it may be overrun print, right? That didn't get cut on one edge or series, but it's cute. I'm gonna have to read that. Little Reminders, The Law of Attraction.
And I would ask him after, I asked him once.
In the
after a
year
while of watching me do
1910,
that,
author
like,
Wallace
what's
D.
that about?
Wattler's
And
book,
he,
The Science of
responded,
Getting Rich,
"When you're
became
coughing,
one of the
it's like
first
the
books
opposite
published on
of
how
when
to
you're
achieve
coughing
success.
because of cigarettes. When you have a smoker's
Nearly
cough, you're like
100 years later,
hacking out your
Australian
lungs.
television
It's all
producer
gross,
Rhonda
nasty,
Byrne
dying from
used the
tar.
principles in
When you've got
Wattler's
the cannabis
Wattle's
cough,
books.
you're
That's
getting
Wattles,
the
Wattles,
healing
Wattles,
nutrients,
Wattles,
T's and T's,
possessive
C's
apostrophe
from
S,
the cannabis smoke deep
work
in
to
your
enhance her own
lungs,
life and
which
to
is
inform her
helping to
international
push out
best-selling
and
book
clean
and
all
movie,
grossness
The
and shit.
Secret.
So that cough is like healing. It's the
These
healing
works and
cough.
those of other pioneers
Of course, I am
such as
severely
Napoleon Hill,
paraphrasing him.
W. Clement
And I
Stone,
was,
Robert
and he
Collier,
was,
James
at
Allen,
the time
and Florence
of that conversation,
Scoble
we were
Shin
both
have helped millions of
extremely
people
high.
around the world improve their lives by
I
using the
digress.
principle that has come to be called the Law of Attraction. It goes on, I am sure, to explain how that works. But for now, that's an interesting dilemma. Where do I put this
Okay.
book? It's both the Little White Book and
For the
the black sheep or quantum entanglement card, and I have to read it. For now, it's going to stay with the cards, and in their pouch. But that's it. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to open up this deck, and that was just a teaser. I'm going to save the main body of the reaction, the welcoming the deck and checking it out, and maybe taking a reading from it for a later episode of Tarot Journal. Thanks for listening.